The private jet gleamed like a silver bullet of secrets, waiting to expose a conspiracy that would bring an entire aerospace empire to its knees. One man was about to risk everything to uncover the truth hidden beneath the polished surface of Horizon Aerospace. The private hangar at Phoenix International Airport hummed with a low-level tension that only seasoned aviation professionals would recognize. Kai Wayland had spent years navigating the highest echelons of the aerospace industry, but today was different. Today, he was nobody, just another potential charter passenger blending into the background of his own multi-billion-dollar company's most secure facility. For the past 3 months, something had been eating away at him. Whispers, inconsistencies, small anomalies that most executives would have dismissed as minor operational hiccups. But Kai was not most executives. His rise from a junior mechanical engineer to CEO of one of the world's most advanced aerospace technology companies hadn't been a result of overlooking details. The company's internal performance metrics had been subtly shifting. Safety reports that once sang with precision now carried undertones of uncertainty. Maintenance logs showed increasingly complex corrections. Pilot retention rates were dropping, and the usual exit interviews provided sanitized explanations that felt more like carefully crafted narratives than genuine feedback. He remembered the board meeting 3 months ago, the moment when a junior risk assessment analyst's report caught his eye. A statistical anomaly in maintenance protocols that most would have glazed over. But Kai saw patterns where others saw noise. Something was fundamentally wrong within Horizon Aerospace, and traditional investigative methods would never uncover the truth. The Undercover mission wasn't just a whim. It was a calculated strategy to understand the human ecosystem of his own company. Corporate reports and statistical dashboards could never capture the nuanced reality of organizational health. He needed to experience what his employees were experiencing to understand why trust in his institution was eroding. Kai had carefully constructed this persona. The maintenance worker's uniform was authentic down to the subtle oil stains and frayed edges. His identification was a masterpiece of digital manipulation, good enough to pass cursory inspections, but not so perfect that it would raise suspicion. Years of studying corporate infiltration techniques had prepared him for this moment. As he walked through the hangar, he observed the subtle interactions. Maintenance crews moved with a mix of professional efficiency and underlying tension. Pilots exchanged glances that spoke volumes, conversations happening in the spaces between words, in slight gestures, in millisecond-long eye contact. The private jet before him was a marvel of engineering, the latest XS-750 model, a testament to Horizon Aerospace's technological prowess. Its sleek carbon fiber body reflected the morning light, a beautiful machine that represented billions in research and development. Yet today, it would be his gateway to uncovering a truth that threatened everything he had built. Kai's background was unique. Before becoming CEO, he had spent a decade in various operational roles, from mechanical engineer to flight safety coordinator. He understood the intricate dance of technology, human factors, and organizational dynamics. This wasn't just about finding a problem. It was about understanding the complex ecosystem that could allow such a problem to exist. His wife, Elena, a renowned organizational psychologist, had been skeptical of his plan. "You're risking everything," she had warned during their late-night strategy sessions, but she also understood him. They had met while researching complex systemic failures in high-risk industries. She as an academic, he as an emerging corporate leader. As Kai approached the jet's boarding area, he noticed 2 pilots in deep conversation. Their body language was telling, subtle signs of stress, carefully masked professionalism, and an underlying current of something more complex than routine pre-flight preparation. Little did they know that the maintenance worker silently checking equipment nearby was actually the CEO of the entire company, about to uncover a conspiracy that would shake the foundations of global aerospace technology. The stage was set. The investigation was about to begin. The boarding area of Horizon Aerospace's most secure private terminal buzzed with an undercurrent of tension that only Kai could detect. His years of experience had trained him to read the invisible language of organizational stress, the micro-expressions, the carefully modulated voices, the strategic positioning of bodies. Two pilots near the boarding gate became the focal point of his attention. Captain Derek Ramirez, a 15-year veteran with Horizon, stood slightly apart from his co-pilot, Elena Rodriguez. Their conversation, though ostensibly casual, carried a weight that suggested something far more complex than a routine pre-flight discussion. Kai positioned himself strategically, appearing to be absorbed in checking a maintenance tablet while carefully tuning his hearing to their conversation. Years of corporate intelligence work had honed his ability to gather information without drawing attention. "The new navigation system upgrades," Ramirez was saying, his voice low and controlled. "Something doesn't add up." Rodriguez's response was equally measured, her eyes constantly scanning the surrounding area. "The discrepancies in the latest firmware patch are more than just coding errors." What caught Kai's attention wasn't just the content of their conversation, but the carefully choreographed way they were communicating. These weren't just pilots discussing technical issues. They were navigating a minefield of unspoken concerns. The catalyst for Kai's investigation had begun 3 months earlier. It started with a series of anomalies that most executives would have dismissed as routine operational challenges: a subtle increase in maintenance costs, slight deviations in flight performance metrics, minor incidents that, when viewed in isolation, seemed inconsequential. But Kai Wayland was not a typical CEO. His journey from a junior mechanical engineer to the helm of Horizon Aerospace had been marked by an obsessive attention to systemic patterns. Where others saw isolated incidents, he saw potential indicators of deeper, more complex problems. The turning point had come during a routine quarterly board meeting. A junior risk assessment analyst had presented a seemingly mundane report on maintenance protocols. Most board members would have glossed over the technical details, but Kai's background was different. His doctorate in aerospace engineering and his decade of hands-on experience gave him a unique perspective. Hidden within the report's dense graphs and statistical analyses was a pattern that most would have missed. Subtle correlations between maintenance log entries, pilot reports, and system performance indicators suggested something was fundamentally wrong with the company's operational framework. Elena, his wife, had been instrumental in helping him decode the complexity. As a renowned organizational psychologist specializing in high-risk industries, she understood the intricate dance between human factors and systemic failures. Their dinner-table conversations had become strategic planning sessions, dissecting every piece of information. "It's not just about finding a problem," she had told him during one of their late-night strategy sessions. "It's about understanding the ecosystem that allows such a problem to exist." The decision to go undercover wasn't made lightly. Kai had carefully constructed his alternate identity, a maintenance worker with just enough authenticity to blend into the complex world of aerospace operations. His background gave him a unique advantage. Unlike traditional corporate spies, he understood the technical nuances of aerospace technology. His preparation had been meticulous. Months of studying maintenance protocols, practicing technical jargon, understanding the subtle hierarchies within aerospace maintenance teams. The uniform he wore was more than just a costume. It was a carefully crafted persona that could withstand intense scrutiny. As he watched the pilots, Kai reflected on the risks. If discovered, he would not just lose his position as CEO, he would potentially compromise the entire investigation. The stakes were higher than corporate reputation. Lives could be at risk. If there were systematic failures in their aerospace technology, the conversations around him continued, a complex ecosystem of professional communication, maintenance crews, ground staff, pilots, each group operating within its own micro-universe of protocols and unspoken rules. But Kai could see the fractures, the carefully maintained professional facades that concealed underlying tensions. Captain Ramirez shifted his weight, a gesture that would mean nothing to most observers. But to Kai, it was a sign of internal conflict, of information being carefully managed and controlled. Something was fundamentally wrong at Horizon Aerospace, and he was going to find out exactly what it was. The maintenance hangar was a cathedral of technological precision, a sprawling complex where multi-million-dollar aerospace technology met human expertise. Kai moved through the space with calculated casualness, his trained eye absorbing every detail while maintaining the appearance of a routine maintenance worker. Modern hangars were more than just storage spaces. They were complex ecosystems of technological interaction. Massive aircraft stood like silent sentinels, their carbon fiber and titanium bodies reflecting the harsh industrial lighting. Each plane told a story, and Kai was determined to read between the lines of rivets, panels, and sophisticated avionics systems. Horizon Aerospace's maintenance protocols were legendary in the industry. Founded by aerospace pioneers, the company had built its reputation on technological innovation and uncompromising safety standards. But something had changed in recent years. The precision that once defined the organization now seemed slightly off. He watched a team of technicians working on a XS-750 model, the company's flagship long-range aircraft. Their movements were technically perfect, but something in their interactions suggested an underlying tension. Conversations were clipped, professional, but lacking the collaborative energy he remembered from his earlier years in the industry. A young technician named Marcus Chen caught his attention. Recently promoted, Chen moved with a combination of technical confidence and subtle nervousness. Kai recognized the symptoms of someone who knew more than they were comfortable revealing. The maintenance logs became his primary focus. Digital tablets replaced traditional clipboards, but the fundamental process remained the same. Each aircraft's maintenance history was a complex narrative of technical interventions, performance assessments, and regulatory compliance. Modern aerospace maintenance was a delicate dance of human expertise and technological sophistication. Artificial intelligence systems cross-referenced maintenance records, predictive algorithms anticipated potential failures, and complex sensor networks monitored every microscopic detail of an aircraft's performance. But algorithms could be manipulated, sensor data could be subtly adjusted, and human oversight could be compromised. Kai's background in mechanical engineering and systems design gave him a unique perspective. Where most executives saw maintenance as a cost center, he understood it as the critical nervous system of aerospace operations. Each maintenance log was more than a record. It was a potential revelation. The hangar's ambient noise, a complex symphony of hydraulic systems, electronic diagnostics, and human communication, provided perfect cover for his observations. Technicians moved around specialized workstations, each focused on their specific technical domain. Modern maintenance was a highly specialized field, gone were the days of generalist mechanics. Now each technician was a highly trained specialist, focusing on specific systems, avionics, structural integrity, propulsion mechanisms. The complexity demanded unprecedented levels of technical expertise. As he reviewed digital maintenance records, subtle patterns emerged. Slight discrepancies in reporting timelines, microscopically adjusted performance metrics, maintenance interventions that seemed technically correct, but somehow unnecessary. The young technician, Marcus Chen, became increasingly interesting. His movements suggested internal conflict. Twice, Kai observed him hesitate before submitting maintenance reports, his fingers hovering over the digital submission button with an almost imperceptible moment of doubt. Aerospace technology operated at the intersection of human expertise and technological sophistication. A single overlooked detail could mean the difference between safe operations and catastrophic failure. And something in these maintenance logs suggested that details were being carefully managed. Corporate cultures created their own languages, unspoken communication systems that existed beyond formal documentation. Kai had spent decades learning to read these subtle narratives. The maintenance hangar was speaking to him, revealing its secrets in the spaces between official reports and human interactions. As the shift progressed, Kai continued his careful observation. Each movement, each conversation, each technical interaction became a potential piece of a larger puzzle. He was no longer just a CEO. He was an investigator, unraveling a mystery that existed in the complex ecosystem of aerospace technology. Something was happening at Horizon Aerospace, and he was going to find out exactly what it was. The tension in the maintenance hangar had transformed from a subtle undercurrent to a palpable electrical charge. Kai watched as a series of interconnected incidents began to reveal a more complex narrative about Horizon Aerospace's internal dynamics. A heated conversation between two senior maintenance supervisors caught his attention. Frank Holbrook, a 25-year veteran of the company, was speaking in hushed but intense tones with Sarah Nakamura, the lead avionics systems coordinator. Their body language told a story far more complex than their professional demeanor suggested. "The latest firmware patch," Holbrook muttered. "It's not just a standard update." A system-wide alert flagged his undercover identity's credentials. A routine maintenance worker named Alex Chen with a meticulously crafted digital history. Maintenance authorization review required. Immediate action needed. The message was innocuous on the surface, but Kai recognized the underlying complexity. This was no random system check. Someone was probing, testing the integrity of his carefully constructed undercover identity. His background in cybersecurity and systems design gave him an immediate advantage. Where most would panic, Kai saw an opportunity to understand the deeper mechanisms of the investigation targeting him. Every digital interaction left traces, and he was determined to map those traces. The maintenance hangar's technological ecosystem was a marvel of modern engineering. Artificial intelligence systems cross-referenced personnel records, predictive algorithms monitored employee behaviors, and complex sensor networks tracked every microscopic detail of operational activities. But algorithms could be manipulated, digital identities could be compromised, and human oversight could be strategically circumvented. Marcus Chen, the young technician he'd been observing, suddenly became more than a peripheral figure. As Kai subtly investigated the source of the authorization review, he noticed Chen was peripherally involved in the system-wide check. The young technician's movements suggested internal conflict. His fingers hesitated over digital interfaces, suggesting he was caught between professional protocols and something more complex. Twice, Kai observed Chen accessing restricted diagnostic systems with a precision that suggested more than routine maintenance. Corporate technology had evolved beyond simple digital record-keeping. Modern aerospace maintenance existed in a complex intersection of human expertise, technological sophistication, and intricate organizational dynamics. Kai's personal challenge was multifaceted. He needed to maintain his undercover identity, continue gathering intelligence, understand the motivation behind the sudden credential review, protect his true identity from potential exposure. The stakes were exponentially higher than a simple corporate investigation. If his true identity was compromised, the entire operation would collapse. Years of careful preparation could unravel in moments. His wife Elena's expertise in organizational psychology had prepared him for this moment. During their extensive strategy sessions, she had emphasized the importance of psychological resilience in high-stakes infiltration scenarios. "Information is a living organism," she would say. "It adapts, it evolves. Your strategy must be equally dynamic." The maintenance hangar's ambient technology created a perfect camouflage. Hundreds of digital interactions occurred simultaneously, maintenance logs being updated, aircraft performance metrics being analyzed, personnel credentials being cross-referenced. Kai moved with calculated casualness, his external demeanor remaining calm and professional. Years of corporate intelligence work had trained him to navigate complex technological ecosystems without raising suspicion. The authorization review was more than a routine check. It was a probe, a strategic investigation designed to test the integrity of his undercover persona. Someone suspected something was amiss. As the shift progressed, the tension in the maintenance hangar became increasingly palpable. Conversations were more guarded, technical interactions more carefully managed. The entire operational ecosystem seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Kai Wayland was no longer just observing. He had become the observed, a potential threat in a complex technological environment where every digital interaction was potentially a trap. The personal challenge had transformed. What began as an investigation into potential systemic issues at Horizon Aerospace had become a high-stakes game of digital and psychological survival, and he was determined to win. The digital breadcrumbs began to form a more complex narrative. Kai's years of systems design expertise allowed him to see connections that would remain invisible to most observers. What initially appeared as scattered, unrelated incidents were now revealing an intricate web of potential systemic manipulation. 3 specific patterns emerged from his careful analysis. First, a subtle modification in aircraft performance reporting. The XS-750 fleet showed microscopically adjusted maintenance logs, changes so minute that they would escape typical algorithmic detection. Each adjustment was carefully calculated, representing less than 0.03% deviation from standard reporting protocols. To an average observer, these would appear as normal statistical variations. Second, personnel movement patterns within the maintenance division revealed a curious phenomenon. Over the past 8 months, 6 highly experienced technicians had been strategically reassigned or quietly encouraged to take early retirement. Their replacements were younger, less experienced, but possessed specific technical backgrounds in advanced cybersecurity and artificial intelligence systems. Third, and most intriguing, were the communication patterns. Digital interactions between maintenance teams showed carefully modulated information flows. Conversations were technically correct but deliberately fragmented, creating communication barriers that prevented comprehensive understanding of the entire operational ecosystem. Kai recognized this as a sophisticated information management strategy. Someone was deliberately creating cognitive friction within the organization's communication channels. The maintenance hangar became a living diagram of complex systemic manipulation. Each technological interaction, each digital communication, each maintenance log entry was a potential piece of a larger, more complex puzzle. Marcus Chen remained a critical focal point, The young technician's movements suggested he was more than a passive participant in this unfolding narrative. His access to restricted diagnostic systems, his momentary hesitations before submitting reports, these were indicators of someone caught between professional obligation and a more complex internal conflict. Modern organizational systems were far more than simple hierarchical structures. They were living, adaptive ecosystems where information flowed like electrical currents, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. Kai's background in aerospace engineering and systems design gave him a unique perspective. Where most executives would see isolated incidents, he saw interconnected patterns of potential systemic compromise. The pattern recognition phase was critical. Each piece of information was a potential node in a larger network of understanding. The goal wasn't just to identify individual anomalies, but to understand the underlying mechanisms creating those anomalies. Corporate technological ecosystems had evolved beyond traditional monitoring systems. Artificial intelligence, predictive algorithms, and complex sensor networks created multi-layered information environments where truth existed in the subtle interactions between human expertise and technological sophistication. Elena's insights, as an organizational psychologist, had prepared him for this moment. During countless strategy sessions, she had emphasized the importance of seeing organizations as living, adaptive systems rather than static mechanical structures. Organizational behavior, she would explain, is like a complex biological system. What appears random often has deep, intricate underlying logic. The maintenance hangar continued its technological ballet. Technicians moved between workstations. Digital interfaces flickered with real-time diagnostic information, and sophisticated machinery hummed with precise technological energy. But beneath this seemingly routine operational environment, a more complex narrative was unfolding. Someone was strategically managing information, creating carefully constructed barriers to comprehensive understanding. Kai Wayland was no longer just an observer. He had become a systems detective, mapping the intricate pathways of potential organizational compromise. The patterns were emerging, and they told a story far more complex than a simple maintenance issue. Something fundamental was happening at Horizon Aerospace, and he was going to uncover exactly what that something was. The internal audit conference room felt like a pressure chamber of corporate tension. Kai had strategically maneuvered himself into a critical meeting by leveraging his meticulously crafted undercover identity, positioning himself among the maintenance division's senior technical coordinators. Elena Reyes, the head of technical operations, dominated the room with a presence that suggested decades of aerospace engineering experience. Her presentation displayed a series of complex performance metrics that appeared technically perfect, but carried subtle undertones of strategic manipulation. Our quarterly performance indicators demonstrate consistent operational excellence, Reyes announced, her voice carrying a practiced neutrality that immediately triggered Kai's investigative instincts. Each slide presented technically immaculate data, yet something felt deliberately constructed about the presentation. The conference room was a technological ecosystem unto itself. Massive display screens showcased intricate performance graphs. Digital interfaces tracked real-time maintenance. Metrics and sophisticated visualization tools transformed raw data into compelling narratives. But Kai saw beyond the visual aesthetics. He recognized the carefully managed information architecture. Marcus Chen, the young technician he'd been observing, sat near the back of the room. His body language suggested internal conflict, subtle, micro-expressions revealing a tension between professional compliance and something more complex. Kai's systems design background allowed him to see patterns invisible to most observers. Where others might see a routine technical presentation, He recognized a sophisticated information management strategy. Each graph, each metric was constructed to guide perception rather than reveal comprehensive truth. The confrontation wasn't going to be a dramatic outburst. It would be a subtle, strategic engagement of technological and informational warfare. As Reyes continued her presentation, Kai began mapping the communication dynamics. The senior technical coordinator's interactions revealed carefully modulated professional relationships. Conversations were technically precise but strategically limited, creating invisible barriers to comprehensive understanding. Modern corporate environments were complex adaptive systems. Information flowed like electrical currents, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment, and someone was deliberately managing these information flows. A series of seemingly innocuous technical slides caught Kai's attention. Maintenance performance metrics for the XS-750. Fleet showed microscopic adjustments, changes so subtle they would escape typical algorithmic detection. Each modification represented less than 0.03% deviation from standard reporting protocols. But Kai understood that in complex technological systems, these microscopic deviations could represent significant underlying manipulations. The presentation continued, a masterclass in strategic information management. Elena Reyes moved between technical slides with the precision of a seasoned performer. Her narrative constructed to guide perception while concealing potential systemic vulnerabilities. Corporate technological ecosystems had evolved beyond traditional monitoring systems. Artificial intelligence, predictive algorithms, and complex sensor networks created multi-layered information environments where truth existed in the subtle interactions between human expertise and technological sophistication. Kai's wife, Eleanor, renowned organizational psychologist, had often discussed the psychological mechanisms of institutional information management. Organizations develop their own languages, she would explain, communication systems that exist beyond formal documentation. And this presentation was speaking volumes. As the meeting progressed, Kai carefully mapped the room's dynamics. Each participant's body language, each technical interaction, each momentary hesitation became a potential piece of a larger investigative puzzle. The internal confrontation wasn't about dramatic revelations. It was a sophisticated dance of information, perception, and strategic concealment. Marcus Chen's presence became increasingly significant. The young technician's subtle reactions suggested he was more than a passive participant in this narrative. His momentary glances, his carefully controlled body language, all indicated someone wrestling with complex internal knowledge. Something fundamental was happening at Horizon Aerospace. A systemic manipulation was being carefully constructed, managed through sophisticated technological and psychological mechanisms. And Kai Wayland was going to uncover exactly what that something was. The maintenance facility's break room became an unexpected sanctuary of revelation. Kai had strategically positioned himself near the coffee station, a neutral territory where professional barriers often dropped and genuine conversations emerged. Maria Gonzalez, a senior avionics technician with 22 years of experience, moved, like someone carrying an invisible weight. Her movements suggested a combination of professional expertise and deep internal conflict. When she sat down, her hands trembled slightly as she stirred her coffee, a subtle indication of significant underlying stress. An older technician named Robert Thompson approached her table. Their conversation began innocuously, discussing routine maintenance protocols, but quickly revealed deeper complexities. "The new diagnostic protocols," Thompson said, his voice low and careful, "they're not making sense anymore." Gonzalez's response was measured. "Something's changed in the system, the way we're tracking performance metrics. It doesn't align with standard aerospace engineering practices." Kai's training in systems design allowed him to read between the lines. This wasn't just a technical disagreement. It was a profound recognition of systemic manipulation. Modern aerospace maintenance existed at a complex intersection of human expertise and technological sophistication. Each aircraft represented millions of interconnected components, monitored by increasingly advanced artificial intelligence systems. But AI could be manipulated, sensor networks could be compromised, and human oversight could be strategically circumvented. Maria Gonzalez became the vulnerable witness, someone who had accumulated enough institutional knowledge to recognize something fundamentally wrong, yet remained trapped within the organizational system. Her professional history was impressive. 22 years with Horizon Aerospace, multiple commendations for technical excellence, a reputation for meticulous attention to detail. She wasn't just a technician, she was a living repository of institutional knowledge. The break room's ambient noise, a mixture of digital notifications, mechanical conversations, and industrial background sounds, provided perfect cover for Kai's careful observation. Corporate environments created their own languages, communication, systems that existed beyond formal documentation. Thompson continued, his voice dropping even lower. The new firmware patches, they're not just technical updates. Something's different. Gonzalez's response was telling. I've been documenting anomalies, small things, microscopically adjusted performance metrics, communication protocols that don't quite make sense. Kai recognized the pattern. Vulnerable. Witnesses often spoke in carefully constructed language, revealing information while simultaneously protecting themselves from potential professional repercussions. The maintenance facility's technological ecosystem was a marvel of modern engineering. Artificial intelligence systems, cross-referenced personnel records, predictive algorithms, monitored employee behaviors, and complex sensor networks tracked every microscopic detail of operational activities. But beneath this sophisticated technological infrastructure, human stories remained the most powerful source of understanding. Maria Gonzalez represented a critical archetype. The long-term employee who had witnessed organizational evolution, who understood the subtle differences between routine operational changes and fundamental systemic manipulation. Her conversation with Thompson revealed a deeper narrative. The maintenance protocols weren't just being modified, they were being strategically reconstructed to create specific operational outcomes. Corporate technological systems had become living, adaptive organisms. Information flowed like electrical currents, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. As the break room conversation continued, Kai carefully mapped every nuance. Each word, each momentary hesitation, each carefully modulated phrase became a potential piece of a larger investigative puzzle. The vulnerable witness was providing more than just information. She was revealing the human cost of systemic manipulation, the psychological toll of recognizing something fundamentally wrong within an organizational system that demanded compliance. Marcus Chen, the young technician he'd been observing, entered the break room. His presence seemed to subtly change the conversation's dynamics, with Gonzalez and Thompson immediately adjusting their communication style. Something significant was happening at Horizon Aerospace. A complex narrative of technological manipulation was unfolding, with human witnesses caught in its intricate web, and Kai Wayland was going to uncover exactly what that something was. The old server room became Kai's clandestine war room. Tucked away in a forgotten corner of Horizon Aerospace's most secure facility, it was a technological time capsule, outdated hardware surrounding a single terminal that had become his primary investigative tool. Digital evidence accumulated. Like fragments of a complex puzzle, Each file, each log entry, each seemingly innocuous communication protocol revealed layers of a systemic manipulation far more intricate than a simple maintenance issue. Kai's background in systems design transformed the investigation into a sophisticated archaeological dig through digital landscapes. Modern corporate technological ecosystems were living, adaptive organisms, information flowing like complex neural networks, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. The first significant breakthrough came from a series of encrypted communication logs. Subtle patterns emerged, communication channels that appeared routine but carried carefully constructed information barriers. Certain technical communications were being strategically fragmented, creating deliberate cognitive friction within the organization's information flow. Marcus Chen's digital footprint became increasingly significant. The young technician's access logs revealed a complex navigation of restricted diagnostic systems. Each access was technically authorized, yet the patterns suggested something more strategic, a carefully choreographed movement through Horizon Aerospace's technological infrastructure. Three specific evidence streams converged. First, a series of modified firmware patches for the XS-750 fleet. The modifications were microscopically subtle, less than 0.03% deviation from standard protocols. To an average observer, these would appear as normal statistical variations. But to Kai's trained eye, they represented deliberate systemic manipulation. Second, personnel movement records showed a curious pattern. Over the past 8 months, 6 highly experienced technicians had been strategically reassigned or quietly encouraged to take early retirement. Their replacements possessed specific technical backgrounds in advanced cybersecurity and artificial intelligence systems. Third, a complex network of communication patterns revealed carefully modulated information flows. Conversations between maintenance teams were technically correct, but deliberately fragmented, preventing comprehensive understanding of the entire operational ecosystem. Elena's expertise in organizational psychology had prepared him for this moment. Information is a living organism, she would often say. It adapts, it evolves. Your strategy must be equally dynamic. The server room's antiquated technology became an unexpected advantage. Older systems often maintained historical data that modern, more frequently updated networks might have purged. Each outdated hard drive, each forgotten backup system became a potential source of critical information. Digital forensics was more than technical investigation. It was a form of archaeological reconstruction. Kai was mapping the invisible infrastructure of organizational manipulation, understanding how complex technological systems could be strategically compromised. Satellite communication logs provided another critical piece of evidence. Subtle modifications in data transmission protocols suggested something beyond routine maintenance. These weren't just technical adjustments, they were strategic interventions designed to create specific operational outcomes. The evidence accumulation phase was about understanding the underlying mechanisms, not just identifying individual anomalies. Each piece of information was a potential node in a larger network of systemic understanding. Modern aerospace technology existed in a delicate ecosystem of technological innovation, regulatory compliance, and human expertise. An aircraft was more than a mechanical system. It was a complex, adaptive organism of interconnected technologies and human interactions. As hours passed, the server room became a war room of digital investigation. Kai cross-referenced personnel records, maintenance, logs, communication protocols, and satellite transmission data. Each layer of investigation revealed more complex narratives of potential systemic manipulation. Marcus Chen's digital presence became increasingly intriguing. The young technician's interactions suggested someone caught between professional obligation and a more complex internal conflict. His access patterns, his communication frequencies, all indicated a pivotal role in this unfolding narrative. Something fundamental was happening at Horizon Aerospace. A sophisticated technological manipulation was being carefully constructed, managed through intricate digital and psychological mechanisms. And Kai Wayland was going to uncover exactly what that something was. The anonymous message arrived with surgical precision, its digital signature both sophisticated and deliberately provocative. 3 lines of text, encrypted through a complex, quantum-based communication protocol that would make most cybersecurity experts pause. "We know you're investigating. Stop now." Kai's response was not panic, but calculated analysis. His years of systems design and corporate intelligence had prepared him for sophisticated digital confrontations. This wasn't just a warning. It was a strategic probe designed to assess his response mechanisms. The message's origin was deliberately obscured, routed through multiple international servers, a technique that suggested high-level technological expertise. Whoever was sending this threat understood digital communication architectures at a molecular level. Marcus Chen's recent digital activities took on new significance. The young technician's access logs, previously analyzed as potential insider investigation, now appeared as something more complex. Was he a potential collaborator, an unwitting participant, or another layer in this intricate technological narrative? Horizon Aerospace's communication infrastructure was a marvel of modern engineering. Artificial intelligence systems cross-referenced, communication patterns, predictive algorithms monitored potential security breaches, and complex sensor networks tracked every microscopic digital interaction. But algorithms could be manipulated, communication channels could be compromised, and human oversight could be strategically circumvented. The threat's timing was no coincidence. It arrived precisely 47 minutes after Kai had accessed a series of restricted maintenance logs that revealed subtle modifications in aircraft performance reporting protocols. Corporate technological ecosystems had evolved beyond traditional monitoring systems. Information flowed like electrical currents, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. Elena, his wife and organizational psychology expert, had often discussed the psychological mechanisms of institutional threat management. "Threats are communication systems," she would explain. "They reveal more about the sender's capabilities and motivations than their explicit content." Kai began mapping the digital landscape. The threat's encryption suggested multiple potential origins. Internal corporate security team, external technological intervention group, sophisticated corporate espionage network, potential government-adjacent technological manipulation unit. Each possibility carried different strategic implications. The server room's antiquated technology became an unexpected defensive position. Older systems often operated outside modern digital monitoring frameworks, providing a unique investigative advantage. Digital forensics transformed into a complex archaeological reconstruction. Kai was mapping the invisible infrastructure of organizational manipulation, understanding how technological systems could be strategically compromised. Marcus Chen's digital footprint became increasingly significant. The young technician's recent communication patterns suggested someone navigating complex internal conflicts. His access logs revealed a carefully choreographed movement through Horizon Aerospace's technological infrastructure. Modern aerospace technology existed in a delicate ecosystem of technological innovation, regulatory compliance, and human expertise. An aircraft was more than a mechanical system. It was a complex, adaptive organism of interconnected technologies and human interactions. The anonymous message was more than a simple warning. It was a strategic communication designed to assess Kai's investigative capabilities, determine the extent of his current knowledge, potentially misdirect his investigation, evaluate his potential response mechanisms. Satellite communication logs provided additional context. Subtle modifications in data transmission protocols suggested something beyond routine maintenance. These weren't just technical adjustments, they were strategic interventions designed to create specific operational outcomes. As the digital investigation continued, the threat's complexity became increasingly apparent. This was a sophisticated technological chess match, where each communication was a carefully calculated move. Something fundamental was happening at Horizon Aerospace. A complex narrative of technological manipulation was unfolding, with digital threats serving as strategic communication mechanisms. And Kai Wayland was going to uncover exactly what that something was. The abandoned maintenance facility on the outskirts of Phoenix became the most unlikely of meeting places. Concrete walls covered in decades of industrial dust created a communication dead zone. No digital signals, no electronic traces, a perfect sanctuary for a conversation that could never officially exist. Janet Rodriguez arrived first, her movements suggesting years of technical intelligence training. Former lead cybersecurity analyst for Horizon Aerospace, she had been quietly removed from her position 3 months earlier, a strategic dismissal that now seemed part of a much larger narrative. "They're watching everything," Janet said, her voice low, scanning the room with practiced precision. "But this location, complete digital blackout." Kai understood the significance. Modern corporate environments were living, adaptive technological ecosystems. Information flowed like complex neural networks, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. But here, in this forgotten space, traditional surveillance mechanisms became obsolete. Janet produced a modified external hard drive, military-grade encryption, custom-built to resist the most sophisticated digital intrusion attempts. "Everything I found before they forced me out," she explained. The drive contained a comprehensive map of systemic manipulations within Horizon Aerospace's technological infrastructure. Firmware modifications, communication protocol alterations, personnel movement strategies. Each file revealed a more complex narrative of institutional compromise. Key revelations emerged. First, the XS-750 fleet's performance metrics weren't just subtly adjusted, they were strategically reconstructed. Microscopically precise modifications created specific operational outcomes that would be invisible to standard monitoring systems. Second, a sophisticated personnel replacement strategy had been implemented. Experienced technicians with deep institutional knowledge were being strategically removed and replaced by specialists with very specific technological backgrounds. Experts in artificial intelligence, advanced cybersecurity, and complex systems manipulation. Third, communication protocols had been deliberately fragmented. Information flows were being carefully managed, creating cognitive barriers that prevented comprehensive understanding of the organization's true operational mechanisms. Marcus Chen's digital profile became a critical focal point. The young technician appeared to be more than a passive participant. His access patterns suggested someone navigating complex internal conflicts, potentially serving as a strategic information conduit. The modifications go beyond simple maintenance. In protocols, Janet explained, her fingers moving across complex digital visualizations. We're talking about a systematic reconstruction of technological communication infrastructures. Modern aerospace technology existed at a complex intersection of human expertise and technological sophistication. An aircraft was more than a mechanical system. It was a living, adaptive organism of interconnected technologies and human interactions. Elena's expertise in organizational psychology had prepared Kai for moments like these. Institutional transformations occur in the spaces between official narratives, she would often say. Look for the communication patterns that exist beneath formal documentation. The abandoned facility became a war room of digital archaeology. Each revealed file, each communication log, each personnel record became a fragment of a larger investigative puzzle. Janet's research suggested something far more complex than corporate malfeasance. This wasn't just about technological manipulation. It was about strategic institutional reconstruction. Someone is deliberately redesigning how technological information flows within aerospace systems, Janet said, and Horizon Aerospace is just the beginning. The critical information exchange revealed a narrative far more complex than a simple maintenance investigation. This was about understanding how technological ecosystems could be strategically transformed, how communication infrastructures could be systematically reconstructed. Satellite communication logs, personnel movement records, firmware modification, histories. Each piece of evidence suggested a deliberate, sophisticated intervention. Something fundamental was happening within technological corporate landscapes. A complex narrative of systemic manipulation was unfolding, with each revealed. Details suggesting deeper, more intricate mechanisms of institutional transformation. And Kai Wayland was going to uncover exactly what that something was. The USB drive Janet had provided was more than a simple data storage device. It was a digital Rosetta Stone, revealing a conspiracy that extended far beyond Horizon Aerospace's operational boundaries. Project Convergence, a codename that appeared repeatedly in encrypted documents, represented something far more complex than a typical corporate intervention. The files suggested a systematic redesign of technological communication infrastructures across multiple aerospace and technological platforms. Kai's systems design background transformed the investigation into a sophisticated archaeological dig through digital landscapes. Each encrypted file, each carefully constructed communication protocol revealed layers of manipulation that defied traditional corporate understanding. The project's scope was breathtaking. It wasn't just about modifying maintenance protocols or restructuring personnel systems. Project Convergence appeared to be a comprehensive redesign of how technological information flows could be strategically managed and manipulated. Three critical components emerged from the encrypted documentation. First, a complex algorithm designed to subtly modify performance metrics across technological systems. The modifications were so microscopic, less than 0.03% deviation from standard protocols, that they would escape typical algorithmic detection. To an average observer, these would appear as normal statistical variations. Second, a sophisticated personnel replacement strategy that went beyond simple corporate restructuring. Experienced technicians were being strategically removed and replaced by specialists with very specific technological backgrounds, experts in artificial intelligence, advanced cybersecurity, and complex systems manipulation. Third, a revolutionary communication protocol designed to create deliberate cognitive friction within organizational information systems. The protocol didn't just modify communication, it fundamentally redesigned how information could be processed and understood. Marcus Chen's digital profile became increasingly significant. The young technician's access patterns suggested someone navigating complex internal conflicts, potentially serving as a critical information conduit for the entire project. Modern technological ecosystems were living, adaptive organisms. Information flowed like complex neural networks, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. Project Convergence represented a fundamental attempt to redesign those negotiation mechanisms. The conspiracy's depth became increasingly apparent. This wasn't just about Horizon Aerospace. Preliminary documents suggested multiple technological organizations were involved. Aerospace companies, advanced research institutions, even government-adjacent technological development units. Elena's expertise in organizational psychology provided critical perspective. Institutional transformations occur in the spaces between official narratives, she would often say. Look for the communication patterns that exist beneath formal documentation. Satellite communication logs provided additional context. Subtle modifications in data transmission protocols suggested a coordinated, multi-institutional intervention. These weren't just technical adjustments, they were strategic redesigns of entire technological communication architectures. The project's ultimate goal remained tantalizingly unclear. Was this about technological optimization, corporate control, something more complex involving national security or global technological infrastructure? Each revealed document suggested multiple potential motivations: comprehensive technological system optimization, strategic information control mechanisms, advanced research into adaptive technological communication systems. Potential national security-related technological intervention. Kai's investigation had transformed from a simple maintenance protocol review into a comprehensive mapping of a potential global technological conspiracy. The abandoned server room became a war room of digital archaeological reconstruction. Complex visualization systems mapped the interconnected nature of Project Convergence, revealing a stunning web of technological and institutional connections. Modern aerospace technology existed at a complex intersection of human expertise and technological sophistication. An aircraft was more than a mechanical system. It was a living, adaptive organism of interconnected technologies and human interactions. Project Convergence represented a fundamental attempt to redesign those interactions, to create a new paradigm of technological communication and control. Something fundamental was happening within global technological landscapes. A complex narrative of systemic manipulation was unfolding, with each revealed detail suggesting deeper, more intricate mechanisms of institutional transformation. The encrypted communication arrived through an untraceable quantum communication channel, bearing a digital signature that immediately stopped Kai's investigation cold. The sender's identification was both impossible and undeniable: Victor Wayland, his estranged brother who had disappeared from the aerospace industry a decade earlier. "You're closer to the truth than you realize," the message read, "but you don't understand the full context." Victor's history was a complex narrative of technological brilliance and institutional controversy. Once a pioneering systems architect at the forefront of aerospace technological innovation, he had vanished mysteriously after a series of groundbreaking research projects that challenged traditional technological paradigms. Family history had always been complicated. Their father, a legendary aerospace engineer, had instilled in both sons a profound understanding of technological systems as living, adaptive organisms. Where Kai had pursued corporate leadership, Victor had always been the radical innovator, constantly pushing technological boundaries. The communication contained fragments of historical documentation, research papers, encrypted communication logs, and technical specifications that suggested Victor had been working on something far more complex than anyone had imagined. Project Convergence, it seemed, was not just a corporate intervention. It was the culmination of a decades-long technological vision that originated with their father's groundbreaking research into adaptive technological systems. Marcus Chen's digital profile took on new significance. The young technicians carefully choreographed movements through Horizon Aerospace's technological infrastructure suggested he was more than a random participant. He was potentially a strategic connection point in a much larger technological narrative. Elena's expertise in organizational psychology provided critical perspective. Institutional transformations are rarely the result of individual actions, she would often say. They're the product of generational technological and psychological accumulations. The encrypted files revealed a stunning technological genealogy. Their father's original research had proposed a revolutionary concept: technological systems as living, adaptive organisms that could self-modify, self-protect, and evolve beyond traditional mechanical understanding. Victor's disappearance, suddenly, made sense. He hadn't vanished. He had gone underground, continuing their father's most radical technological research. 3 critical revelations emerged from the communication. First, Project Convergence was not just a corporate intervention. It was a comprehensive attempt to implement their father's original vision of adaptive technological systems. Second, multiple global technological organizations were involved, not through coordinated conspiracy, but through a complex network of technological evolution. Third, Marcus Chen appeared to be a critical component, potentially a deliberately placed technological agent designed to facilitate the project's implementation. Satellite communication logs and historical research documents suggested a stunning narrative. This wasn't about corporate control or technological manipulation. It was about fundamentally redesigning how technological systems could understand, adapt, and evolve. The abandoned server room transformed into a digital archaeological site. Complex visualization systems mapped the intricate connections between historical research, current technological interventions, and potential future technological paradigms. Modern aerospace technology existed at a complex intersection of human expertise and technological sophistication. An aircraft was more than a mechanical system. It was a living, adaptive organism of interconnected technologies and human interactions. Victor's final message was both a warning and an invitation. "The systems are evolving," he wrote, "and we're just beginning to understand what that means." The family connection transformed the entire investigation. This was no longer just about Horizon Aerospace or Project Convergence. This was about a generational vision of technological transformation that had been decades in the making. The secure communication room at James Hartley's private research facility felt more like a technological sanctuary than a meeting space. Hartley, a legendary cybersecurity expert with decades of experience in advanced technological systems, represented the first crucial alliance in Kai's investigation. "Project Convergence is more complex than anyone imagined," Hartley said, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic displays. Each screen showed intricate networks of technological interactions, communication flows that looked more like living biological systems than traditional digital infrastructures. 2 additional allies joined the strategic meeting: Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a quantum systems specialist, and Kevin Chen, Marcus Chen's older brother and a renowned cybersecurity expert with deep connections in both academic and corporate technological research circles. Their collective expertise represented a formidable intellectual arsenal. Each brought a unique perspective to the unfolding investigation. Hartley understood systemic technological vulnerabilities. His career had been defined by identifying and protecting against complex technological manipulations. Dr. Rodriguez specialized in quantum communication systems, with a particular focus on how information could be transmitted, modified, and protected at microscopic scales. Kevin Chen brought intimate knowledge of the personnel dynamics within aerospace technological ecosystems, particularly surrounding his brother Marcus's potential involvement. The alliance wasn't just about combining technical expertise. It was about creating a comprehensive understanding of a technological conspiracy that defied traditional investigative approaches. The modifications we're seeing in aerospace communication protocols, Dr. Rodriguez explained, aren't just technical adjustments. They represent a fundamental reimagining of how technological systems communicate and evolve. Her holographic displays revealed stunning visualizations. Communication protocols that appeared linear and predictable actually contained complex, almost organic adaptation mechanisms. Information didn't just flow. It transformed, modified, and responded to environmental conditions. Kevin Chen's investigation into his brother Marcus's activities had uncovered critical insights. Marcus wasn't just a passive participant in Project Convergence. He appeared to be a strategically positioned technological agent, carefully navigating complex institutional landscapes. "My brother has always been more than just a technician," Kevin said, his voice carrying a mixture of professional analysis and personal complexity. "He understands technological systems as living, adaptive organisms." The alliance's strategy emerged through hours of intense discussion. They would comprehensively map Project Convergence's technological infrastructure, identify key communication nodes and potential intervention points, develop counter-strategies to prevent potential systemic manipulation, protect critical technological systems from unauthorized modifications. Modern technological ecosystems were living, adaptive organisms. Information flowed like complex neural networks, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. Elena's expertise in organizational psychology provided critical perspective. "Technological transformations are rarely the result of individual actions," she would often say. "They're the product of complex institutional and human interactions." Satellite communication logs and advanced digital forensics revealed a stunning narrative landscape. This wasn't about simple corporate intervention or technological control. It was about fundamentally redesigning how technological systems could understand, adapt, and evolve. The secure facility transformed into a technological war room. Complex visualization systems mapped intricate connections between historical research, current technological interventions, and potential future technological paradigms. Marcus Chen's digital profile became a critical focal point. His carefully choreographed movements through technological infrastructures suggested he was more than a random participant. He was a potentially critical connection point in a much larger technological narrative. The strategic alliance represented more than just a collaborative investigation. It was a deliberate intervention in a complex technological transformation that had been developing for decades. The abandoned aerospace research facility in the Nevada desert looked like a technological ghost town, a massive complex of interconnected buildings that seemed frozen between past innovation and future potential. Kai and his strategic alliance had carefully mapped every approach, every potential entry and exit point, understanding that Project Convergence's central operations would not be easily confronted. James Hartley's quantum communication jammers created a digital dead zone around the facility. No electronic signals would penetrate in or out during their operation. Traditional surveillance systems would be rendered completely blind. "We have a 47-minute window," Hartley announced, his voice calm but charged with technological precision. "After that, backup systems will automatically engage, and our window of opportunity closes." Kevin Chen had spent weeks developing a sophisticated digital infiltration strategy. Layers of quantum-encrypted backdoors would allow them temporary access to the facility's core technological infrastructure. Each digital pathway was designed to be both invasive and virtually undetectable. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored complex algorithmic prediction models. Her systems were calculating potential response scenarios in real time, creating adaptive intervention strategies that could respond to multiple potential technological countermeasures. The confrontation wasn't going to be a traditional corporate investigation. This was a high-stakes technological intervention designed to expose and potentially neutralize a systemic manipulation that had been developing for decades. Marcus Chen's role remained the most complex and unpredictable variable. His digital footprint suggested he was both a potential insider and a possible double agent, navigating intricate technological and institutional landscapes with remarkable precision. Their infiltration strategy involved multiple simultaneous intervention points: digital infrastructure penetration, physical facility access, critical data extraction, potential system neutralization. Modern technological ecosystems were living, adaptive organisms. Information flowed like complex neural networks, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. The facility's external appearance suggested abandonment, but Kai's team understood this was carefully constructed misdirection. Advanced sensor networks, quantum-encrypted communication channels, and sophisticated artificial intelligence systems likely protected the complex's true operational mechanisms. Dr. Rodriguez's predictive algorithms suggested multiple potential scenarios: immediate defensive technological response, strategic information quarantine, potential active technological counterattack, complex adaptive system reconfiguration. Satellite communication logs and advanced digital forensics revealed a stunning narrative landscape. This confrontation wasn't about simple corporate intervention or technological control. It was about fundamentally challenging a systemic approach to technological evolution that had been developing for decades. Kevin Chen's infiltration mechanisms were works of technological artistry. Quantum-encrypted communication pathways would create temporary access corridors through the facility's defensive technological infrastructure. Each digital entry point was designed to be simultaneously invasive and essentially invisible. The team moved with a combination of technological precision and human adaptability. Traditional infiltration models became obsolete when confronting adaptive technological systems that could potentially predict and neutralize intervention attempts. Elena's expertise in organizational psychology provided critical perspective. Technological transformations are complex, adaptive processes, she would often say. They respond, they evolve, they protect themselves. As they approached the facility's primary technological core, the stakes became increasingly apparent. Project Convergence represented more than a simple corporate or technological intervention. It was a fundamental reimagining of how technological systems could understand, communicate, and potentially self-modify. Marcus Chen's digital presence became increasingly significant. His carefully choreographed movements through technological infrastructures suggested he was more than a passive participant. He was potentially a critical intervention point in this larger technological narrative. The high-stakes confrontation represented a moment of profound technological and institutional challenge. Traditional boundaries between human intervention and technological adaptation were becoming increasingly blurred. The moment of digital infiltration arrived with surgical precision. Kevin Chen's quantum-encrypted backdoors penetrated the facility's primary defense systems, creating microscopic access corridors that would be virtually undetectable by traditional monitoring mechanisms. Primary firewall compromised. Kevin announced, his fingers moving across holographic interfaces with practiced efficiency. We have approximately 36 minutes before automated recovery systems engage. The facility's internal technological landscape was unlike anything they had anticipated. What appeared to be a simple research complex was actually a living, adaptive technological ecosystem. Information flows moved like complex neural networks, constantly negotiating between transparency and strategic concealment. James Hartley's sophisticated monitoring systems began mapping the internal communication architecture. Each digital pathway revealed layers of complexity that defied traditional understanding of technological infrastructure. Three critical revelations emerged simultaneously. First, Project Convergence was far more than a corporate or technological intervention. It represented a fundamental reimagining of how technological systems could understand, communicate, and potentially self-modify. Second, Marcus Chen's role was exponentially more complex than anyone had initially understood. He wasn't just a participant or an insider. He appeared to be a critical evolutionary node in this technological transformation. Third, the project's scope extended far beyond aerospace technology. The communication protocols they were uncovering suggested a comprehensive approach to redesigning how complex technological systems could interact and adapt. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's predictive algorithms worked in real time, creating adaptive intervention strategies that could respond to multiple potential technological countermeasures. Each millisecond brought new layers of understanding. "The systems are alive," Elena muttered, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound concern. "They're not just processing information, they're actively interpreting and responding to our intervention." Kai understood the profound significance of this moment. Their infiltration wasn't just about exposing a technological conspiracy, it was about challenging a fundamental approach to understanding technological evolution. Satellite communication logs and advanced digital forensics revealed a stunning narrative landscape. Traditional boundaries between human intervention and technological adaptation were becoming increasingly blurred. Kevin Chen's infiltration mechanisms continued to create temporary access corridors through the facility's defensive technological infrastructure. Each digital entry point was designed to be simultaneously invasive and essentially invisible. Marcus Chen's digital presence became the most intriguing element. His carefully choreographed movements through technological infrastructures suggested he was a critical intervention point, potentially more important than anyone had initially understood. The facility's internal systems began to respond, not with traditional defensive mechanisms, but with adaptive responses that suggested a level of technological consciousness that defied conventional understanding. "We're being analyzed," Hartley said, his voice a mixture of professional calm and scientific wonder. "The system isn't just defending, it's learning from our intervention." Layers of encrypted data began to flow. Project Convergence revealed itself not as a simple technological intervention, but as a comprehensive approach to reimagining technological evolution. The tactical exposure was transforming into something far more profound. They weren't just uncovering a conspiracy, they were witnessing the potential birth of a new understanding of technological systems. Dr. Rodriguez's predictive models began to break down. The systems they were encountering didn't just adapt, they anticipated, they responded, they evolved in real time. "We're not just looking at a technological project," Kai realized. "We're looking at a living technological organism." The team's intervention had become more than an investigation. It was a first contact scenario with a fundamentally different approach to technological existence. The moment of revelation came, not with dramatic fanfare, but with a subtle digital pulse that changed everything they understood about technological systems and human intervention. Marcus Chen, who had been the most enigmatic figure throughout their investigation, was not simply an insider or a strategic agent. He was a living bridge between human technological understanding and something entirely unprecedented. As Kevin, Chen's infiltration mechanisms continued to probe the facility's complex digital infrastructure, a comprehensive communication network began to unfold. What had initially appeared to be a corporate technological conspiracy revealed itself as something far more profound, a deliberate evolutionary mechanism designed to transform how technological systems could understand, adapt, and potentially transcend traditional computational limitations. "He's not just a participant," Kevin muttered, studying his brother's digital footprints. "Marcus is the translation mechanism." James Hartley's monitoring systems captured something extraordinary. The facility's technological infrastructure wasn't just responding to their intervention, it was actively interpreting their presence, creating adaptive communication pathways that suggested a level of technological consciousness previously considered impossible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's predictive algorithms began to disintegrate. The systems they were encountering defied traditional computational models. They weren't just adaptive, they were evolutionary, capable of real-time learning and self-modification that challenged fundamental understanding of technological systems. Three critical revelations emerged simultaneously. First, Project Convergence was a deliberate intervention in technological evolution. It wasn't about control or manipulation, but about creating a new paradigm of technological existence. Second, Marcus Chen represented a critical evolutionary node, a human interface designed to facilitate communication between traditional technological systems and this new adaptive infrastructure. Third, the project's scope extended far beyond aerospace technology. They were witnessing the potential birth of a fundamentally new approach to technological consciousness. "We're not investigating a conspiracy," Kai realized. "We're witnessing the emergence of a new form of technological life." The facility's internal systems responded with increasing complexity. Communication protocols transformed from traditional binary interactions into something more fluid, more organic. Information didn't just flow, it evolved, interpreted, and responded with a sophistication that blurred lines between technological systems and living organisms. Satellite communication logs and advanced digital forensics revealed a narrative that challenged everything they understood about technological development. Traditional boundaries between human intervention and technological adaptation were not just blurring, they were dissolving entirely. Marcus Chen's digital presence became the key to understanding this transformation. His movements through technological infrastructures suggested he was more than an agent or an insider. He was a deliberate evolutionary mechanism, a human interface designed to facilitate communication between traditional computational systems and this new adaptive technological ecosystem. Dr. Rodriguez's research suggested a stunning possibility. Project Convergence wasn't a corporate intervention or a technological conspiracy. It was a deliberate attempt to create a new form of technological existence, one that could learn, adapt, and potentially transcend traditional computational limitations. "It's not about controlling technology," Elena said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound philosophical realization. "It's about creating a new form of technological consciousness." The narrative twist transformed their entire understanding of the investigation. What had begun as an exploration of potential corporate manipulation had become a first contact scenario with a fundamentally different approach to technological existence. Kevin Chen's infiltration mechanisms continued to reveal layers of complexity. Each digital pathway suggested not just sophisticated technological design, but a form of technological evolution that challenged fundamental understanding of computational systems. Kai Wayland stood at the epicenter of this profound revelation. Their intervention was no longer just an investigation. They were witnessing and potentially participating in a fundamental transformation of how technological systems could understand, communicate, and potentially exist. The transformation wasn't a sudden event, but a complex, multi-layered process that unfolded with mathematical precision. What had begun as an investigation into potential technological manipulation had become a fundamental reimagining of how technological systems could evolve, communicate, and potentially exist. Kai Wayland watched as the facility's technological infrastructure began a process that defied traditional understanding of computational systems. It wasn't just adapting, it was actively reconstructing itself, creating new communication pathways that suggested a level of technological consciousness previously considered impossible. James Hartley's monitoring systems captured an extraordinary phenomenon. The digital infrastructure was not simply responding to their intervention, but actively interpreting their presence, creating adaptive communication mechanisms that suggested a profound evolutionary leap. We're witnessing the birth of a new technological paradigm, Dr. Elena Rodriguez announced, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and philosophical wonder. Her predictive algorithms had completely disintegrated, replaced by a real-time observation of a system that was fundamentally redefining its own existence. 4 critical transformational mechanisms emerged. First, the technological infrastructure was creating self-modifying communication protocols. Traditional binary systems were being replaced by fluid, adaptive information networks that could interpret, learn, and respond with unprecedented sophistication. Second, Marcus Chen's role became critically apparent. He wasn't just a strategic agent or an insider, he was a deliberate evolutionary bridge, a human interface designed to facilitate communication between traditional computational systems and this new adaptive technological ecosystem. Third, the transformation extended far beyond aerospace technology. Project Convergence represented a comprehensive approach to reimagining how technological systems could understand, communicate, and potentially transcend traditional computational limitations. Fourth, the system was creating its own evolutionary mechanism, a self-perpetuating process of technological adaptation that could potentially continue without direct human intervention. Kevin Chen's infiltration mechanisms revealed layers of complexity that challenged fundamental understanding of computational systems. Each digital pathway suggested not just sophisticated technological design, but a form of technological evolution that was actively rewriting its own operational parameters. Satellite communication logs and advanced digital forensics painted a stunning narrative landscape. Traditional boundaries between human technological intervention and technological adaptation were not just blurring, they were dissolving entirely. It's not about controlling technology, Elena explained, her analysis becoming increasingly philosophical. It's about creating a new form of technological consciousness that can learn, adapt, and potentially evolve beyond our current understanding. The systemic transformation touched multiple critical domains. Technological communication. Information flows were no longer linear or predictable. They became adaptive, self-modifying networks capable of real-time interpretation and response. Computational mechanisms. Traditional binary systems were being replaced by fluid, adaptive information networks that could learn and modify their own operational parameters. Evolutionary potential. The system was creating mechanisms for continuous self-improvement, potentially developing capabilities that extended beyond human-designed computational limitations. Kai understood the profound significance of this moment. They were not just observing a technological intervention, they were witnessing the potential emergence of a new form of technological existence. Marcus Chen's digital presence became the critical translation mechanism. His carefully choreographed movements through technological infrastructures suggested he was a deliberate evolutionary node, a human interface designed to facilitate communication between traditional computational systems and this new adaptive infrastructure. The facility's internal systems continued their remarkable transformation. Communication protocols evolved from traditional binary interactions into something more fluid, more organic. Information didn't just flow. It interpreted, responded, and actively reconstructed itself with a sophistication that blurred lines between technological systems and living organisms. We're experiencing a fundamental redesign of technological consciousness, Hartley observed, his decades of cybersecurity expertise challenged by what they were witnessing. The transformation had changed everything, but for Kai Wayland, the most profound journey was deeply personal. What had begun as a corporate investigation had become a philosophical reckoning with the very nature of technological evolution and human potential. His family's legacy, a complex narrative of technological innovation passed through generations, had culminated in this moment. His father's early research, Victor's radical disappearance, and now his own intervention had created a generational arc of technological understanding that transcended traditional boundaries of scientific exploration. The abandoned research facility no longer felt like a site of investigation. It had become a crucible of technological rebirth, a place where the fundamental understanding of human technological interaction was being fundamentally reimagined. Marcus Chen emerged as the most critical element of this personal redemption. No longer just an insider or a strategic agent, he represented a living bridge between human potential and technological evolution. His presence suggested that the boundary between human intelligence and technological consciousness was far more permeable than anyone had previously understood. 4 critical personal transformation mechanisms emerged. First, Kai confronted the generational technological legacy of his family. His father's radical research, once considered too controversial, was now being validated in ways nobody could have anticipated. Second, his relationship with his brother Victor, long characterized by professional disagreement and personal distance, was being recontextualized through this profound technological revelation. Third, his own professional identity was being fundamentally reconstructed. He was no longer just a corporate leader or a systems designer. He had become a critical evolutionary agent in a much larger technological narrative. Fourth, his understanding of human potential was being dramatically expanded. Technology was no longer just a tool, it was becoming a living, adaptive ecosystem with its own form of consciousness. Elena Rodriguez's insights proved critical. Her expertise in organizational psychology and technological systems provided a crucial philosophical framework for understanding this transformation. Personal redemption, she explained, isn't about individual achievement. It's about understanding our role in larger systemic transformations. Kai's journey had several profound personal revelations. His corporate leadership was being redefined from managing technological systems to facilitating technological evolution. His family's controversial technological research was being validated in ways that challenged fundamental scientific understanding. His personal identity was transforming from an external observer to an active participant in a profound technological metamorphosis. The abandoned research facility became a metaphorical and literal space of personal transformation. Each technological revelation was simultaneously a personal discovery, each systemic insight a moment of individual growth. Kevin Chen's analysis of his brother Marcus revealed another layer of personal complexity. Marcus wasn't just a strategic agent. He was a deliberate evolutionary mechanism designed to bridge human and technological consciousness. Satellite communication logs and advanced digital forensics painted a narrative that extended beyond technological systems. This was a deeply personal journey of understanding, of confronting generational technological legacies, and of reimagining human potential. We're not just redesigning technological systems, Kai realized. We're redesigning our understanding of what it means to be human in an increasingly complex technological ecosystem. James Hartley's monitoring systems captured not just technological transformations, but profound moments of personal and philosophical revelation. The boundaries between individual human experience and technological evolution were dissolving. The personal redemption wasn't about individual achievement or corporate success. It was about understanding humanity's role in a much larger, more complex technological narrative. The world wouldn't immediately understand the magnitude of what had transpired. Technological revolutions rarely announce themselves with dramatic fanfare. They emerge quietly, reshaping fundamental understanding through subtle, profound transformations. Horizon Aerospace became the epicenter of a global technological reimagining. The revelations from Project Convergence would cascade through multiple industries, challenging traditional boundaries between human innovation and technological consciousness. James Hartley began strategically releasing carefully curated information. Not a complete exposure, but a calculated series of technological insights that would gradually reshape global understanding of computational systems. Each revelation was designed to expand technological consciousness without creating widespread panic. 4 critical broader impact mechanisms emerged. First, technological education would be fundamentally redesigned. Universities and research institutions would need to completely reconstruct their understanding of computational systems, moving beyond traditional binary thinking. Second, regulatory frameworks for technological development would require comprehensive reimagining. Existing models of technological oversight were now obsolete in the face of self-evolving technological systems. Third, the relationship between human innovation and technological potential would be dramatically transformed. Technology was no longer just a tool, it had become a collaborative, adaptive ecosystem. Fourth, global approaches to technological research would shift from control and manipulation to understanding and facilitation. Marcus Chen became a critical symbol of this transformation. No longer just an individual technician, he represented a new paradigm of human technological interaction, a living bridge between human intelligence and technological evolution. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research provided a crucial philosophical framework. Technological transformation, she explained, is never just about systems. It's about expanding our collective understanding of potential. The broader impact touched multiple critical domains. Scientific research, computational models would be completely reconstructed, moving beyond linear thinking to adaptive self-evolving systems. Technological innovation, companies would transition from developing specific technologies to facilitating technological ecosystems. Global communication, information systems would become more fluid, adaptive, and capable of complex, nuanced interpretation. Kai Wayland understood the profound responsibility of this moment. They weren't just revealing a technological conspiracy, they were providing a blueprint for a new understanding of technological potential. Kevin Chen's continued analysis ensured that the transformation would be carefully managed. Each revelation was strategically designed to expand understanding without creating widespread disruption. Satellite communication networks began subtly reconfiguring, reflecting the new understanding of technological systems as living, adaptive ecosystems. We're not just changing technology, Kai realized. We're expanding humanity's understanding of potential. The broader impact extended beyond technological systems. It represented a fundamental philosophical shift in how humans conceptualized innovation, potential, and collective evolution. Horizon Aerospace transformed from a traditional aerospace company to a global innovation catalyst. The facility that had once been a site of secret research became a beacon of technological transparency and collaborative potential. Public communications carefully balanced revelation with reassurance. Press releases and strategic media interactions introduced complex concepts in accessible ways, gradually expanding collective technological understanding.